Super Eagles squad list should be coming out anytime soon because after this weekend, everybody will break for the international break. So I wanted to just give my initial thoughts on who I think could make the 23-man squad. We know that the current process is to call a 23-man squad. Yes, during tournaments in recent times, CAF or FIFA have expanded the total list pool to be 25 or 26 players, especially since the pandemic. But for the last few games, Nigeria have been calling up a 23-man squad because you're allowed 11 players on the pitch and 12 substitutes. So the way I look at it is you pretty much have one player for each position and 3 goalkeepers. So if you minus the goalkeeper position, that's 10 positions times 220 plus the 3 goalkeepers, 23. I think some of our selections you should expect are pretty routine. I don't expect too much chopping and changing from Eric Shell over the squad list because it's only been 4 weeks and we have pretty crucial competitive games, so you have to stick with the tried and trusted players who prosecuted those 2 wins against Lesotho and Benin for the Super Eagles. Also, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on who you'd love to see selected for the national team. Who do you think should not be in there? What's your own predicted squad list ahead of the release of this list? And of course, I'll be doing an overview once that squad list is dropped. So goalkeepers, I expect Stan Nwabali, of course, to be number 1 and to be called up. Maduka Okoye should finally make his return to the national team since the June friendly against Russia. And I think Adebayo Adeleye will continue as the 3rd choice goalkeeper. He's better than Amaso Basogi or Kayode Bankole or any of the other goalkeepers that we have around the world. So those 3 goalkeepers are set. I think defenders it pretty much picks itself based on the injury situation. At the last round of internationals, Eric Shell called up Calvin Bassey, Benjamin Frederick, William Troost-Ekong, and Shemi Ajayi as centre backs. I expect all 4 of them to be called up as the centre back pairings for this round of these games against Gabon. Also, at left back, we'll see Zedu Sanusi called up and Bruno Yemachi. This one pretty much picks itself because Felix Agu is still injured. So our 2 left backs that we have at the moment who are at least of a certain caliber. Yes, Sanusi is not playing as much recently, but they should be called up. And in the right back position, I believe Osai Samuel is back to full fitness, even though he came off the bench in the 89th minute for Birmingham. But at least Osai Samuel is fit. We still have a right back problem, but I expect Osai Samuel to be called up. And I expect Chidozie Awaziem to be called up. I mentioned in last week's episode about how Eric Shaw was praising Awaziem and watching his games. So I expect Awaziem to be called up as a right back. And we may even see him start ahead of Osai Samuel. It will not surprise me. There's a world where he will probably keep Benjamin Frederick and Bassey as the centre-back pairing. Or he may decide that because of maybe pace issues. But the thing is, Boanga and Aubameyang both play in central positions for their national team. But Boanga comes in from the left too. So maybe he might choose to play Benjamin Frederick as a right back just because he's the better defender, at least from what we've seen so far. And then play an Awaziem and Bassey pairing. Because I would probably still prefer Awaziem over Shemi Ajayi or Ekong. But left to me, I'll play Awaziem as the right back and I'll keep our centre-back pairing of Bassey and Frederick going. Let them just be playing and building their chemistry together in the national team, But those are the 8 defenders I expect to be called up. Midfielders-wise, we know that the usual suspects will be called up. Bufren Didi will be called up. Rafael Yedika will be called up now that he's back from injury. Franco Eka will be called up. He's the reason why we're even here now at this point. Alex Wobi will definitely be called up. So that's already 4. I expect Ebenezer Kisomero to get his maiden call up to the national team. I think David Moses of Slavia Prague is pretty unlucky. I've seen that he's also starting the game for Slavia Prague in the Champions League against Arsenal, which I'm looking at with my left eye here. But Akisomero 5. And then the reason I think Santuche will be called up as the 6th midfielder / central attacking midfielder is because Fisayo Delebashiru remains injured. Key followers of national team know that Fisayo Delebashiru, despite having only 9 caps, has proven to be quite a formidable player for the national team in the last 2 years and making impacts in terms of goals and assists. But unfortunately, he's still injured. So normally, Fisayo Delebashiru and Iwobi would have taken those spots as the cams, or at least called up, But with Fisayo being injured, I think that still gives an opportunity for Uche to retain his selection in the squad as a backup to sit on the bench. Yes, he might be able to show some workings if he comes off, but we cannot say he deserves or merits to be in the national team right now. Even though I love this player with my heart and I wish him all the best and I hope it really clicks for him because there's a serious talent in there. But that's what I expect to be caught up in terms of our midfield selection. Our attackers, three wingers automatically select themselves. Ademola, Lookman, Moses Simon, and Samuel Chukwueze will always be in national team squads unless they are injured or something's going wrong. We know their performances, they show the workings. Lookman's back in the goals. Moses Simon scored literally yesterday for Paris FC. You know, Chukwueze hit the post and is finally back in form. We know what Chukwueze did against Benin. So those ones will always pick themselves. Now, there's a world where we could have called up yet another winger. But the problem is, I don't think there's any winger of the people that are fighting for a spot that are really, truly convincing like that. You could say Philippe Otele, Nathan Tella is injured and not scoring or assisting enough. And I'm not sure any of those players are doing enough to justify getting a position ahead of what Nigeria like to do in terms of selecting three strikers. Because that's still our biggest strength as a national team. And we always have a lot of strikers. So for that reason, I anticipate Eric Shaw to call up three wingers and then call up three strikers. Now, we already know Victor Osimhen and Akko Adams based on the last international. Akko Adams is probably going to be called up for sure too. So Osimhen and Akko Adams are already two. Now, the third one, I think he will likely call up Aroko Dare again because Aroko Dare has been tried and trusted with the manager. He scored a few crucial goals for Nigeria. Yes, it did not happen for him in the last round of games. And also, it's not really happening for him for Wolverhampton, but there's a bit to be said about continuity. But the caveat I'll say is there's a world where Murphy may also be called up. You know, it will be one of those players. I will say either a Murphy, but the problem is we know Murphy is injured because of that calf injury. So actually, I take that back. So I expect Aroko Dare to be called up. Now, interesting enough, Boniface is now back starting games for Werder Bremen, but obviously he's not scoring as much yet. But you're beginning to see the touch of the talent in that player. You do not win the Bundesliga unbeaten without being a super talent. You do not score Champions League goals without being a super talent. I still think Boniface on his given day is comfortably our second best striker by talent and potential. But we know that Watkins, we have not yet seen it for the national team. So I do think there's a world where if Boniface is called up, I will not be surprised, but I think it's unlikely. So I would say Osimhen, Akko Adams, and Aroko Dare will be called up as the final selections in the strikers. I mean, it's Nigeria. We may end up seeing 4 strikers here, and they will remove 1 defender. But I'm hoping that based on what we've seen in the last round, we will see something similar to this structure in terms of the team. So a quick bonus before I move on. As we prepare for our most important game in a long time, you know, this Gabon game, if we do not win it, we're out of the World Cup, and it will be a shame because, you know, how can we miss the World Cup? You know, after all the greatness and celebrating beating Benin Republic 4-0, you know, we have to champion. But I want you guys to let me know in the comments or on any social media channels of what does Super Eagles mean to you. You know, just in case now that we're getting bigger, small, maybe a Super Eagles footballer will see this. But maybe they can just see the comments. What does Super Eagles mean to you? I'm not sure everybody understands the impact of this team as a symbol of hope for Nigeria and Nigerians both in Nigeria and the diaspora. You know, the one thing that unites the country. Let me know your fun moments. What did the last time in the World Cup when Ahmed Musa scored those goals, what did it mean to you? Watching us go to toe with Argentina. Just any kind of semblance of joy that's been brought to you by the national team. Or why do they matter? Let me know in the comments so we can encourage our players and continue to ginger them ahead of what is a very crucial game.